Hi, I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. Kristen Oaks-White has the week off. There are 8 million acres in production agriculture across Louisiana. That's according to the USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service. And most of those farms are run by families that pass the farm from generation to generation. Such is the case in Avoyelles Parish, where the Roy family continues to grow and distribute Louisiana sweet potatoes. Packing sweet potatoes is a family affair at Earl Roy Enterprises. Cynthia Roy Veed and her siblings carry on the legacy of their father, Earl Roy, who began this Avoyelles Parish business.
When we were much younger, when we were children, my dad bought and sold cannery potatoes. And then he ended up buying the sweet potato auction. It was right here at this location. The farmers would bring their #1 sweet potatoes to the auction, and they had buyers from different places in Louisiana that would come here and they would bid on their potatoes. And we ran that for a few years until it got to be where there was no more really small local farmers left.
The Roy family transitioned the business first to buying and packaging fresh market sweet potatoes like you see here, then to growing their own.
That's what we were raised doing, was farming and selling our produce. And then we eventually opened up our own produce company warehouse where we service different schools and other wholesale companies.
We all worked, the whole family worked for the farm, you know, and moved on, and we found sweet potatoes did the best for us, so kind of stuck with that.
Earl Roy Enterprises is now a staple in Hesmer, Louisiana, a business that depends upon the Louisiana Sweet Potato Commission for variety development, research, and marketing.
We need to get the younger generation to start buying sweet potatoes, because the older generation that is used to eat sweet potatoes, they're fading out. And these younger generations, they're not as far as the fresh market side. That's what I think, yeah. Maybe more advertisement, you know, saying how healthy and stuff potatoes are for you. Maybe we'll get some more business out there.
And that's what you see here, generations working to keep the Louisiana sweet potato industry thriving. Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Dr. Mike Strain, knows that's vital.
When you talk about the value of the family farm, it cannot be overstated. A farm is not like a light switch. You don't just turn it on and off. It's like a long-term marriage. It gets better over time. And, you know, the real hope of most farmers is that, you know, one day, you know, I'm going to turn this over to my kids and my grandkids, and it will last for generations.
As you saw, we had a great time hanging out with Cynthia, Joey, and David Roy. This story was brought to you by the Louisiana Sweet Potato Commission, taking care of our farmers for 70 years. More than 500 women traveled to Alexandria for the Louisiana Women in Agriculture Conference. Now, we shared some of the highlights last week. Many of those farm women jumped onto buses to visit farms across the Bayou State. Tammy Arender was among the women on those tours and shows us what some of these farm women got to experience.
So a lot of the on-farm tours included women who run those operations, or at least integral parts in running that farming or ranching operation. And they went from the northern part of the state to the southern part of the state to see what's going on in agriculture.
Not often does a tour bus make a stop at a family farm, but these ladies got the opportunity to visit several operations through the Louisiana Women in Ag Conference.
Multi-use area.
One stop was here at the Inglewood Farms, just outside of Alexandria, Louisiana. It's an organic operation, growing everything from strawberries to vegetables to pecans. Another stop was a bit further south in Sunset, Louisiana. T. Moise Farms is run by Monica Hernandez Melanson and her husband.
I'm a city person. My husband is a farmer, fourth-generation farmer, and he wanted to always to eat well. And he, as being raised in a farm, he knew that you know, in order to do that, he had to raise his own animals. So that's how I started.
So now she rules the roost, so to speak, having a hand in raising all of the animals, from the chickens
cute and fluffy
to the cows and the Berkshire pigs, who seem to be living their best life until some nosy reporter comes around with a camera. And speaking of nosy, the lambs can be quite the camera hogs, just the opposite of, well, the hogs.
I didn't know anything about farming or animals, taking care of them, but I knew business and how to, you know, do research and and the challenges. So I kind of help my husband, you know, get his goal.
Jambalaya, like my dad showed me.
Made with your sausage?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, made with our hogs that we raise.
Does that make a difference?
Oh, you bet. Wait till you taste it.
And one of Tim's goals was to be a farm-to-table operation. So he showcases authentic Cajun cuisine for the LWAG ladies on this tour, from the jambalaya to the sweet potato boudin pie.
Well, you can definitely taste the sweet potato and the boudin, and the combination is absolutely amazing.
For visitors like Tony Lynn Brown, who wants to open her own farm-to-table operation, this conference and farm tour offered a wealth of information.
Nothing is more rewarding to me than raising or growing something and eating it and knowing exactly how it was processed. And we're just super stoked to be in the farming business now.
For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Tammy Arender.
Something all the ladies enjoyed seeing at T-Moe's farm was the processing facility built on site. I'm sure there were plenty of questions about how to do that on the tour. Another group of women loaded onto a bus and traveled into the timberlands of Logansport. St. Lucia Plantation has been growing trees since the 1800s. However, the current generation is growing something different these days. TWILA's Neil Melanson takes us to northwest Louisiana, where forestry, sustainability, and ecotourism sit comfortably in the rolling hills.
It's a great day for a hayride in northwest Louisiana. This crew from the Louisiana Women in Ag Conference is getting to see St. Lucia Plantation. This multi-generational farm is now managed by Hannah Gamble, whose father expanded the acreage to more than 1,200 acres here. Now Gamble is expanding the farm scope.
He took me to logging sites and all sorts of tree farm operations, control burns, and really ignited a fire in me that natural resources and trees and the land would provide. And if you take care of them in a holistic and sustainable fashion, you will be able to generate an income for, your whole life, because trees are a renewable resource.
Controlled burns are part of the management plan here. Gamble says wildfires are a constant threat, and she wants to avoid the massive damage seen both in Louisiana and out west.
Most recently, we're changing up our planting plan so that we can attract more of the native bird species that have left our area, like quail and turkey. So we actually have an 87-acre piece that we clear cut that we're going to plant shortleaf on, along with some native hardwood species, and in a silvopasture planting scheme. So that way we're going to incorporate native grazers, which will put nutrients back into the soil through their manure and just turning up of that topsoil.
Marilyn McCrary is a small landowner on the tour today. After raising 13 children, she's ready to raise some trees. McCrary says St. Lucia's operation is inspiring.
She's managing for the wildlife, she's managing for her water resources, she's managing for protecting what she's got with her fences and with her contracts that she has with oil and gas companies. She's managing for the protection of the land, and I think that's fantastic. And the fact that she was willing to share and teach us was phenomenal.
As the tour ends with a late lunch, it's clear McCrary's not the only one inspired. This woman-led enterprise is bringing a new perspective while still keeping the best traditions alive.
Silvopasture is where you're incorporating grazing and agricultural animals, as well as tree farming and forestry. And so that's really important to St. Lucia Plantation, and me in particular, because it's more of a mirror of what a native Louisiana farm looks like.
As you can see here next to me, this pond is absolutely stocked with bass fish. In fact, many of the children of the employees here at St. Lucia have caught their very first fish right here. And that's part of the philosophy at St. Lucia, land that can be shared now and with the children of the future. Reporting from Logansport, I'm Neil Melanson.
St. Lucia offers tours, hunting, and overnight stays. For more information, you can log on to our website at twilatv.org. Speaking of forestry, there is now an historic partnership between state and federal agencies. The Louisiana Shared Stewardship was signed between the Governor, U.S. Forest Service, the Department of Ag and Forestry, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service. The Shared Stewardship is a framework agreement that allows greater control over the use of federal resources in Louisiana. While it does not change any current programs, it's aimed to make national programs more flexible, and suit the needs of local areas. Randy Moore, chief of the U.S. Forest Service and a native of Louisiana, was on hand to sign the agreement. He said it's both good to be home and to see such a great tool available to help manage Louisiana's natural resources.
Then the people in Louisiana will need to decide what they're going to work on and how we're going to work on this. And so we left that open. And that's the flexibility that we have. It's trying to manage from D.C. means that you have a one-size-fits-all, and we know realistically that's not possible. So what we want to do is create a framework to operate and to operate in, and that's what this agreement does. It creates the framework, but the specifics will be determined by the local partners in the agency.
Moore added that the framework will have to be expanded on as time goes on, but it's an important first step. After a 2-year hiatus because of the COVID-19 pandemic, exhibitors again entered the show ring for the Louisiana Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Livestock Show. This year, the event moved to the Lamar Dixon Expo Center in Gonzales, and 86 exhibitors participated in the show. This week, TWILA's Breanne Hendrickson was also back in the show ring, but this time behind the camera.
Layla Keller prepares her animals for the show ring. She takes great care to ensure every hair is brushed and those that don't look right, trimmed. For Keller, the Louisiana Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers Youth Livestock Show is always on her schedule.
I enjoy this event a lot because my parents are really involved at YFNR and in Farm Bureau, so we know a lot of people from all around the state, and it gives us a chance to show them what we do when they're not around us, because most of them live up north compared to us, we live all the way down south. So we kind of get to meet up with them every once in a while, and it's kind of nice to catch up with them.
The young farmers and ranchers who volunteered at this event used the time to catch these young people up on what Farm Bureau has to offer, says YFNR Committee Chair Vincent Canatella.
Our Youth Livestock Show is a very important event we do to reach out to the youth that are involved in agriculture in Louisiana with their livestock animals, with their cattle that they're showing. It lets us get exposure to them, say, hey, we're part of the Louisiana Farm Bureau. This is a section of the organization that you can get involved with, and it just gives us exposure, reach out to them, kind of add to the education for them.
This event did not happen for 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Canatella is glad it's back.
I mean, people were ready to have an event, especially an event for the youth to come back. And 2 years might not seem like a lot to a grown person or an adult, but 2 years of not having this show for the kids, we have children showing for this show that never shown at it, and we have other ones, they showed 2 years ago, and this is their last year. This might be their last event they have showing, and they're going to get to finish with us.
2 years off from a livestock show does not mean that Keller was able to take 2 years off. Her cattle need care daily, and she says that's where the real lessons are learned.
It teaches you a lot of responsibility, even from a young age, because there's a lot of people these days who just want to sit on their couch and not do nothing. But when you get with these animals, you have to work with them, and if you don't, then it shows when you go in showmanship and all. Because if you don't work with them and they don't work with you, it's not going to work out. It kind of teaches you more about it because you get to know, the judge tells you what would look better if your calf had more of a better brisket or something, and it teaches you oh, well, maybe if I feed them a certain feed, that'll make that part grow instead of other parts that you don't want to grow.
If you would like to download pictures from this show or learn more about next year's show, you can visit us on our website at twilatv.org. And I have to say, Avery, it was great being back in the show ring, even if it was behind camera, seeing those kids and everything.
You looked so comfortable in there because I was out there at the livestock show as well. What is it that makes a good photograph of a show animal? Because we had people comment on Facebook just what a great job you did.
Yes. It just kind of depends. Cattle, completely different than what you're going to see in your sheep, goats, and hogs. It's all about angles. They want certain angles, and if you can get those angles just right, you'll get that picture.
Well, I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more from you. Thank you very much, Breanne Hendrickson. Well, you don't have to sit in front of your TV for long to know that everybody loves cooking shows. I mean, everybody, from British bakings to diners and drive-ins and dives to things that do not look like cake. That's an actual show, and even our own Feasting on Agriculture segments. There's a cooking show for everyone. Mine is Iron Chef. Now there's an in-person cooking challenge for everyone, too, as long as you're a Louisiana 4-H member. This week, TWILA's Carl Wiggers takes us to the first ever Louisiana 4-H Food Challenge to see what's cooking.
Teams are putting their heads together to make a plan for their dish at the first ever Louisiana 4-H Food Challenge. In 40 minutes, they must plan, shop, prep, and cook a meal using a mystery ingredient from the Louisiana waters: shrimp.
This is stressful.
It's a lot to handle, according to Louisiana 4-H Healthy Living Specialist Claire Zach.
Our youth are learning stress management skills, they're learning cooking skills, they're learning presentation skills, and an important skill that they're learning, and something that as a healthy living specialist I love, is that they are learning their nutrition information.
This event was a hit from the start, far exceeding expectations of those planning the competition.
When we decided to bring this contest to Louisiana 4-H, our goal was to get 9 teams, and we've had 40 sign up for today. And so we are thrilled, and the feedback so far has been positive, just to have another opportunity. And for many of these youth, because there are so many competitors, their goal is to have fun. And really good things happen when they're just having fun.
We made a shrimp po' boy with a whole wheat bread bun. We added Tony's to the shrimp and made it really flavorful and colorful.
At first, whenever I first started cooking shrimp, I burnt it completely, but I got good at it, and I can cook shrimp very well. I cook it a lot of the times, and I wasn't really nervous about it.
I think I like the team more because you have the support of your team members. So if you're like, you can't do something, they can come back beside you and do it.
I 100% believe that this wouldn't have been able to be done if each one of us didn't help each other and build each other up on what to do.
That teamwork is a huge part of this challenge.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Zach says she's extremely proud to bring this event to 4-H'ers of Louisiana to see them cook with the bounty Louisiana has to offer.
It's essential that our youth are educated consumers, and we want them to be educated Louisiana consumers. We want them to understand that our sweet potatoes can be found from a farm that's not too far from our backyard, that shrimp come from our state, that we have all of these wealth of agricultural products available to us in our own state.
The Louisiana shrimp used at the 4-H Food Challenge was donated by the Louisiana Seafood Promotion and Marketing Board. Events like this would not be possible without donations like that, and the countless volunteers that judged each team, that helped set up and work different stations, and all the parents and volunteers that traveled with the children from across the state to Louisiana to compete. So to all of you that helped, thank you so much. And Avery, I gotta say, dude, this event was really fun to go to. Brianne went with me, and seeing all these teams, you heard her say 40 teams showed up to do this, and it was fascinating. And they were from 4th graders to high school seniors. I was impressed. I know I couldn't do any of that stuff when I was their age, so it was pretty neat to see them, you know, putting all this knowledge to the test, really.
What were the smells and the tastes like there?
You know, I got to be honest. We were moving around so much, you could smell the fresh shrimp, you know, hitting the skillets and getting sautéed up and stuff. And it was nice, but you know, it was in the mega shelter. You've been in there. It's a huge place, so everybody was really spread out. So it wasn't like this just everybody on top of each other with all the smells competing and stuff. And the mystery ingredient was the shrimp, so everyone was cooking with the same main ingredient there, which was cool because it was a Louisiana product. So.
Well, it sounds like it was kind of like my favorite cooking show that I mentioned earlier, Iron Chef, where everyone had to do the best they could with that one ingredient.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you very much, Carl Wiggers. Still to come on TWILA, snails the size of apples are invading Louisiana crawfish ponds. We'll show you what researchers are doing about that. Stay with us. Apple snails are an invasive pest from South America and considered to be a plague on Louisiana water bodies. The snails are a major problem for crawfish farmers, and as Craig Gautreaux shows us, in extreme cases, have caused farmers to abandon their ponds.
These pink masses are a clear sign an invasion is underway. The eggs belong to apple snails, which are prolific breeders and are causing major problems for crawfish farmers.
Female snails can lay one egg mass about every week in the summertime, and each one of those egg masses can have anywhere from 200 to up to 1,000 eggs.
For crawfish farmers, apple snails can become so numerous it is no longer profitable to fish some of their ponds.
They're clogging up the crawfish traps, competing with crawfish for food, and really slowing down the operations where The farmers will have to sort through every trap capture to pick out the snails and separate them from the crawfish.
Wilson is looking at some chemical control methods to reduce the number of snails, but the catch is these methods must not be harmful to crawfish.
It's really going to be a lot of research involved in kind of dialing in what rates and products might be safe for the crawfish and still effective in controlling snails.
Wilson says if you encounter any of these egg masses, they should be knocked into the water to keep from hatching, but it must be done carefully.
Don't use your bare hands. The toxin in those egg masses can irritate your skin and cause you more discomfort, particularly if it gets in your eyes or your mouth.
While edible, the snails must be carefully prepared because they carry a parasite that can lead to meningitis. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Otro reporting.
Apple snails are prevalent across the Gulf Coast states, and it's reported that they were released after growing too big and numerous in home aquariums. Now, I don't recommend that you eat apple snails. You can if you prepare them properly, but I don't think they would taste very good, and I don't think it would help the situation. But I absolutely know what will help: eating Louisiana crawfish from our farmers and fishermen here in Louisiana. Let's check out some prices from around the state. In Houma, Bayou Cane Seafood has live crawfish for $2.30 a pound, and you can get boiled crawfish for $3.75 a pound. In Opelousas, Crawfish Corner has live crawfish for $2 a pound and boiled for $1 more, $3 a pound. Continuing north to Natchitoches, you can visit Natchitoches Crawfish for live crawfish at $2.49 per pound and boiled for $4.69 a pound. Call ahead to check prices as they tend to kind of fluctuate a little bit at weekends. These crawfish prices are brought to you by the Louisiana Crawfish Promotion and Research Board, which reminds you to always eat Louisiana crawfish and ask before you eat. Still to come on TWILA, sporting clays, scholarships, Farm Bureau. All of these combine for a TWILA boost that's right on target. Stay with us. $20,000. That's how much money the Louisiana Farm Bureau Northwest Louisiana Sporting Clays shootout raised this year. Teams from across the state took their best shots to raise money for the Louisiana Ag in the Classroom Foundation and the Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation, which supports the Linda and Wayne Zonbrecker scholarships. This event was a joint effort of 7 parishes in Northwest Louisiana: Caddo, Bossier, DeSoto, Red River, Claiborne, Sabine, and Webster parishes. DeSoto Parish Farm Bureau President James McBride says this event is a great way to ensure the importance of agriculture is being taught to the next generation.
The North Louisiana Sport and Clay event gives us the opportunity to raise money for the Ag in the Classroom Foundation and also the Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation. So that enables us to continue to teach agriculture in our classrooms and give scholarships for individuals that are going into agriculture-related majors. It's wonderful to finally be able to get back together and not have the worries or concerns of the past 2 years, kind of get things behind us and get going more in a normal pace to move forward and share agriculture with the world.
Yeah, my arm was sore for about 3 days after doing all that shooting. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll check in on Louisiana's corn crop and see how the spring showers have helped the crop in South Louisiana. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find all of these stories and more on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. That way you know when we put something out. For all of us here at TWILA, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.